Why, hello, people of YouTube. We're live yet again, still sheltering in place here. And I have my top secret video producer here helping out. Going to tell me if there's any comments and questions in the live chat. And because of some technical difficulties I was having here today, I've had to start a separate stream. So I'm going to go ahead and talk for a couple of minutes here while people show up from the other stream that for some reason I couldn't get it working. It's just very frustrating. This live streaming stuff is confusing to me. It's not really my forte doing these kind of live streams. So hello to everybody who's here and everyone who's about to show up. If there are any questions or problems that you're having with our audio or video feed today, please put a comment in the chat window there, and I'll do what I can to maintain as high of quality as we can. So I got a whole bunch of stuff that I want to talk to you about today. And the first one is something that I thought was pretty cool, which was this week I was looking at my Facebook stuff and I saw a notice from Soundtraxx, you know, the DCC decoder company. They are helping with the virus problem by reproducing switches for ventilators. At least I think that's what, if I remember right, that's what they were talking about doing, which I thought was pretty cool because they don't have to do that. So good on you, Soundtraxx. It makes me even prouder to have them as a sponsor of the channel. So I wanted to mention that. And I think it's something that's worth doing. And I think it's something that's worth supporting them for doing it. And since I'm thinking about Soundtraxx real quick, I know that everybody has different preferences with their decoders. And I want to mention that because Soundtraxx is sponsoring the channel, it would help if you order your decoders from Soundtraxx directly to let them know that you appreciate them supporting the TSG Multimedia channel. That will help them make the decision to continue doing so. See what I'm saying? So that would be really cool if you do that. So I think mermaids are wonderful. Yes, of course. Hamilton is here. Hello. I mean, really, hello to everybody. I can't sit here and read everybody that said hello. So sorry about that. Let's see here. Is Top Secret here today? Yes, sir. Top Secret's over here to my right, but I don't think she's planning on making an appearance on screen. One thing that I do want to talk about, though, is that our friend Sparky107107, who's here, this is odd. 2 chats up. What do you mean, Dave? Well, Dave's going to call me in a minute anyway, because he's doing something that I think is pretty awesome. That's Sparky107107. And so what I'm talking about is he came on this past week with a video about how to grow your YouTube channel. Now, this is pretty cool, especially for people that have smaller YouTube channels. And there are a lot of modelers who have smaller YouTube channels. And, you know, it's hard to grow a channel when you're just starting out because no one knows who you are. It's hard for people to find your content and that kind of thing. Well, Dave has a weekly live stream that he does. And on that stream, it's really about community because he's giving people a place to hang out and people talk and support each other, which I think is a pretty cool thing. So what he did this past week was put up another video that was about how to grow the channel that you have. And I'm hoping that he'll call me here real soon. I got my phone here and I can take a live cell call just on voice. And I think it would be better if he explains what he's trying to do. I'll give you my take on it, though. The first video he posted was something to the effect of, hey, everybody, if you put your, here he comes. If you put your, let me grab this real quick. Okay, audio, hang on a second, Dave. I'm putting you on speaker. Okay, so why don't you talk a little bit and let's see if people can hear you okay.
3 videos that I posted for that stuff. Like, we're all kind of stuck at home watching videos or working on our layouts and stuff. So I thought I'd make it really easy to find newer channels or channels that people aren't following at the time. Like, there's some bigger channels out there, smaller channels. So I wanted to post a video that was nothing more than a place for people to gather their name. And that way it makes it really easy for people to find newer content. Since we're all sitting, you don't want to be sitting at home watching the same stuff over and over again all the time. So,
right. I'm just typing. So what was the idea, though? Because my understanding was if people come on to your video, and I'm going to also have Dave, Sparky. Everyone knows Dave as, I call him Dave because that's his name, and I'm always kind of trying to be formal with people. So because I think if it's
but now you're telling everybody we're friends.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. Yeah. I don't really know. I don't really know him. He's just someone that I picked up on the side of the road last year. No, but seriously, let's kind of explain this. So what he was doing is trying to give people a place that have smaller channels to post in the comments how many subscribers you have. Then anybody who comes and looks at that video can go into the comments and find those people and subscribe to them. So if a bunch of people are all subscribing to each other, but there's more to it than that, right, Dave? I mean, why don't you kind of explain what you found out later? Because there's actually 3 videos to watch. And go ahead, Dave.
The important video to watch in that series is part 3, because it really explains what YouTube is really trying to do. YouTube doesn't like the sub for sub routine. So you go to someone's channel, you subscribe, they subscribe back. And when I first posted that first video, a lot of people were doing that. They were going in, finding 50 new channels and just subscribing to them. YouTube in turn came back the next day and took 40 of those channels away from you. So now you got to go figure out what 40 they took from you. So what you have to do, and it's explained in my 3rd video, is pick 5 channels, basically, that you can go on my first video there, go through it, find 5 channels that you're not following. But you have to go and watch 2 of their videos, and then hit the subscribe button. And then YouTube looks at it and says, oh, okay, he's really watching because of this person's content, not because he's just doing a sub for sub routine. And they're going to leave you alone.
Right. So in other words, don't just go subscribe to people without paying attention to what they're doing, but go and actually watch what they're doing and subscribe if you like it, really, is what you're saying.
Yeah, for sure. Like, you don't want to be just flying through there anyway, and some of them are going to be gaming channels, and some of them are going to be the bot channels. And so really go through and pick the ones that you want to watch. And that's what I'm trying to get people to do, and to help people find content that's relative to what they want to watch.
Right. And the idea then is that if you do this, if you go to Dave's channel, watch his video, check out some of the other people's stuff, subscribe to as many as you like, and also post your number of subscribers, and then sometime later in the week, go and do it again. And the idea is...
I can put the link up for my 3rd channel on that series, or that 3rd video. People can just click on that if they want.
Yeah,
share it from there. So
that would be fine. But I think it's a cool thing because it's almost like the old chain letters that people used to do, where it's like, here, put $1 in this envelope and send it to this person, and then the next person gets it, and they put $1 in it, and they send it to the next person. Then by the time it gets to the end of the chain, that guy gets $20, and it only costs you $1.
I hope I'm at the end of the chain on that one.
Well, you're at the end of the chain because the original video's on your channel. So,
right.
But at the same time, though, you're going to be helping a bunch of other people who want to also grow their channels. So
yeah, that's my main goal, is to help other people, like even big channels and small channels. Like, I'm pretty sure I've got people following me that don't know who you are. So if you put your name in that list, even if you don't have the time to go back and check out 100 smaller channels through the month, people still get a chance to see your name in there too, right? So it's good for every channel. You don't have to participate in it, but it's just another way to get your channel out there.
Right. Exactly. Anyway, I thought it was a cool thing, and thanks for doing it, because I'll tell you what, if I was just starting out right now, I would be all over that. I'd be coming back and checking it and subscribing and helping and doing as much as I could to to share the benefit, you know.
How about actually watching people's videos?
Yeah, we talked about that.
I do kind of have a personal goal with that whole video series too. That first video that I posted, I'm really hoping to hit 10,000 views in a month. So hopefully everybody keeps going back and they do as they're asked to do, and that's check out 5 channels a day.
Right. Sounds like a plan, man.
Alrighty. Well, I'm going to let you go.
Okay,
Back to your show, bud.
sounds good. Thanks for calling in. I appreciate it.
Hey, not a problem. Anytime.
All right, see ya. Now that we've hung up, I can tell poser. Anyway, so definitely check out Dave's video, and if you're trying to grow your channel, do it. I mean, just try it. What's the worst that can happen? And if it doesn't work, you're in the same position where you started, right? So I got a whole list of stuff here to talk about today. Because, you know, it's been a month since we did this. I had a lot of fun last time too, by the way. So the next thing I wanted to mention is if you do have a channel that's monetized, you probably noticed, like I have, that your ad revenue from Google has gone through the floor. It's like the bottom has dropped out of the advertising revenue on Google. And this was a little bit of a mystery to me for a while, but I figured out what's going on. It is hung up. I figured out what's going on, and then I got an email that verified what I suspected. So if you don't have a monetized channel, I'll explain to you just basically how it works. So every time there's an ad that plays on your channel, and I don't know all the ins and outs of it, but if whoever's watching watches a certain percentage of the ad or a certain amount of time on the ad, then it generates, you know, half a penny or something like that for the creator, like for me, right? If people just skip through it, then like as soon as you can skip it, if you skip it, then it doesn't do anybody any benefit, at least not on the creator's side of things. So what ends up happening is if you have a whole bunch of people who watch your ads, then you can make a decent amount of money doing YouTube. It comes straight from Google. The money does. Well, what ended up happening over the past couple of months, especially after the virus hit, the advertising revenue went kaput. I mean, it's just like probably half compared to what it was. So I'm like, wow, why is the revenue going down so much? And I searched through my analytics. Google provides all kinds of really neat analytics for your videos. You know, we can see how old people are that watch a video, how long they watch it, where they're from, what's the gender of the people watching or what they report it as, all that kind of stuff. So I looked in there and like, you know, what's going on here? And I found that I had just as many views. Actually, I have more views right now than what I was getting in the last 28 days. I have about the same number of minutes watched and more subscribers. So I'm thinking to myself, what's going on here? Like, why is the revenue so low? And then I thought about it. The way Google sells the ads to the advertisers is kind of like an auction. So if you're an advertiser and you want to advertise on train-related videos, you tell Google, you know, I want to advertise on train-related videos. Here's how much I'm willing to pay for a click. You know, and then it's whatever amount, say 5 cents. Well, if the top secret video producer over here also bids on that same ad, but she says she wants to pay 10 cents per click, you see her ad instead of mine. Do you see where I'm going with this? Now, so it's competitive, right? Well, with all this stuff happening with the virus and people aren't out spending money, being able to shop and do all this stuff, the advertisers have greatly reduced their budgets. So the only ads that we're getting paid for right now are the cheapest ones that people have bid the lowest amounts on, because they're like, well, it's not going to cost me much to advertise. So that's kind of what I thought was going on. And then I got an email from I guess it's an organization that I get emails from. I don't remember signing up for it, but it's called MediaCube. And that's what they said. It says right here in the email, it said that despite the overall increase in traffic, which I was getting, YouTubers' revenues are dropping, which is also happening due to the situation with the virus. it's also reported that a quarter of advertisers stopped buying ads in the first half of this year, and that 46% of brands cut their spending on it. So there you have it. It verified what I was thinking was happening, which I don't want to be right about that, because I would prefer if the ad revenue, continued to roll like it was before, because over the holidays, it was pretty decent. I mean, it was actually starting to make a difference for a change. Now we're back to whatever. Someone was mentioning in the comments here earlier, Bill Greason was saying, everybody join TSG's Patreon. Yes, please join TSG's Patreon. I talk about Patreon on the podcast, and I don't like to, because I don't know. I feel weird sort of self-promoting, but it does make a difference. Patreon is a website where artists, because what I do is really an art form, artists can have people who enjoy their content, like my viewers, the best viewers on YouTube is what I always say, to go and pitch in like $2 a month or more, whatever it is, to help. Because the way I'm able to do what I do is because I don't work a full-time job working for somebody else, which takes up all your time. This is what I do. It's what I enjoy doing. I've worked for other people in my life and found that almost always you're never appreciated as much as you should be, or treated as well as you think you should be. So I've decided to try to do this instead, and Patreon helps me do this. So I'm trying to share things that I think you'll find cool and things that I also enjoy doing. So anyway, I wanted to mention also, this past month, our top secret producer over here made her first video for the TSG Multimedia channel. Did you guys see this? It was the Amtrak slideshow. We scanned thousands of photographs, slides and photographs, for the South Bay Historical Railroad Society here in Santa Clara, which we both volunteer at. And part of that collection was a bunch of vintage Amtrak stuff from the 1980s. And as we were doing it, I'm looking at them going, God, these are kind of cool photos. Like, maybe we should try to do something with it. And she offered to do a video. And I thought, oh, well, that's cool. It's one less thing I have to edit then. So she did it. And then with minimal feedback from me, came up with something that I thought was really cool. And then I took it and added the music and the intro and the end credits to it. And so 90% of it was hers. So if you didn't get to see that, when I go back and rewatch this live stream later, I'm going to add a little thing a little icon in the top right corner of the screen that you can just click on that and go watch this Amtrak video. It'll appear right now on the replay. Ding. Anyway, so I wanted to mention that. So super big thanks to the top secret video producer. And if you haven't watched it already, go over and watch it and support the super top secret video producer, who's also the top secret video editor now. All right, so I have a quick comment about the product spotlight and N Scale Friday programs that I do. And you'll notice that whenever I talk about product spotlight and N Scale Friday, I never call them product reviews. And there's a specific reason for that. To me, a product review is when you take a product and really evaluate it and show people the pros and the cons. A product spotlight is just showing people what comes out of the box, and you can make your own decisions about, whatever you think about it. And the reason why I've gone to the spotlight sort of style of doing these instead of the critical reviews, well, there are many reasons, but that's what I figured I'd talk about before I get to the video tips here, because I know we're supposed to talk about video tips, and we will. So let me find this here. So basically what I'm doing on a spotlight is showing you what came out of the box and telling you what I see as sort of standout features. And then basically what I'm doing is focusing on what is there and not what isn't there. Whereas a critical might focus on what isn't there. Here's the problems with it. Here's an example. I have this here just for this reason. And this is the model that sort of prompted this little discussion. This is a Southern Pacific GP35 from Atlas. And when I pulled this out of its box, the very first thing I noticed, which is true of every SP that has this shortcoming, it does not have the SP light package. It's the first thing anybody who pays attention to Southern Pacific or likes Southern Pacific, that's what you're going to notice. I have this SD9, N-scale SD9 that I did a product review on a long time ago, like about a year and a half ago. It also doesn't have the light package. And it was the first thing I noticed on that one too. So the difference between a review and a spotlight would be, for a review, I would come on and say, hey, it doesn't have the signature SP light package. That's the first thing you notice when you look at those prototypically accurate ones. So, but on a spotlight, here's my take. So I'm showing you what's there, and anybody who's interested in Southern Pacific can see very plainly on this model that there's no SP light package. You can see that. Do you need me? So here's the question. Do you need me as an intelligent person? Do you need me to tell you that there's no spot headlight SP light package on that? You don't. You don't need me to tell you that. You can see for yourself that it's not there. So what good does it do for me to sit here and criticize the crap out of this model for not having that when it has a bunch of other really cool stuff that is there? You see what I'm saying? And the same thing goes for wheel gauge on a freight car. It's easy to fix. Any modeler who's worth their salt can fix wheel gauge. Shoot, even before I was a modeler, I could do it. It's easy. You just take the wheel set and twist it a little bit and pull or push, depending which way it needs to go. So do you need me to tell you if the wheels were out of gauge? Does that mean that the model you're going to get is going to have the wheels out of gauge just because the one I got had them? No. Same thing with coupler height. You can fix coupler height. It's easy. On a locomotive, it's a little bit harder, but on rolling stock, it's easy. You just take the truck off and file down the bolster, or if it's, one direction, or add little shims to it if it's the other direction, if you need to raise it. These are very easy fixes, and people who know what they're doing can just do it. And just the fact of pulling something out of the box, if I find mine had the wrong coupler height, that doesn't mean the one you get is also going to have the wrong coupler height. So it's kind of, do you see what I'm saying? To me, it's kind of, I get it. I know that people like to get some controversy and, oh, he really didn't like that one, or it really had a problem, or whatever. Look, just, you're an intelligent adult, intelligent person, a modeler who can do stuff on your own, so do it. If the coupler height on yours is wrong and you care about that, just fix it. Doesn't matter to me. It doesn't matter to me what you do with your models. Here's the other funny thing. When I used to do critical reviews, and when I used to work with someone here that did the critical reviews, people used to say that all the time. Oh, you don't like any models because all the coupler heights are wrong. It's like, so you can't win if you do it, and you can't win if you don't do it, I guess. I just thought that was funny. Something else that I think is better from my perspective doing spotlights is another note that I put in my notes here, which is it reduces the chance for subjectivity while giving the viewing audience their due respect, right, for knowing what you're seeing. You see what I'm saying? And you don't need for me to tell you that stuff is or isn't there because you can see it. I make sure that you can see it because I know how to do video, and the videos are lit well and clear and in focus and all that stuff. So the idea is every viewer will see things that are important to them. And, so for example, if you notice that the steps on the end of the model are inaccurate, and that's the level of detail that you want, then you know that you're going to have to fix that. Not everybody cares. So focusing on stuff like that is actually kind of a waste of time in a way. Anyway, wanted to mention that. One of the other things that we used to talk about, especially for locomotive, well, only for locomotives, was the pulling power. And this is the one that really kind of cracks me up. Now, I don't know that we ever docked models for having low pulling power, but what's the difference what the pulling power is? Think about it this way. It's whatever it is. So if you're going to use this model to pull a train and it can't pull it, you get two options. You can add more power, and I think most people aren't going to have a problem with adding more power. It's like, hey, it looks better having more locomotives pulling a train anyway, right? Or just shorten the train. It's not that big of a deal. So anyway, I'm not going to beat a dead horse here anymore. I think I've probably made my point. So let's talk about video. I want to look here on the chat and see what's going on. It looks to me like my chat window has stopped. Yeah, it looks like mine has stopped here. Let me type a little something in here and see if it comes back. It just says it's unable to connect to chat for some reason. One thing I want to check, hold on one second. Okay, so let's talk about video for a minute. Well, for a while. I can't see any questions that are coming up because my chat on my screen here has stopped. So maybe the top secret producer, are there any questions going on or comments that I should comment on? Okay. So we'll talk about video. I want to mention that I'm going to, and it's been in my plans for a long time, I'm going to make a video 101 that's in the vein of Model Railroading 101, where I give you a little bit more depth on some of this stuff. But I want to talk about this because, we're talking to Sparky about people with YouTube channels who want to grow their channels. And one of the other things that you can do besides subscribing and being supportive of other people, one of the other things you can do is make sure that your videos look good. Because if you put out higher quality, people will come to you because that's what they want to see, is higher quality videos on YouTube.
Hunter's here, Shakalaka Bro.
Oh, Shakalaka Bro is here. Hey. Or I mean, and hello, Hunter. I hope you're staying home these days and not going out spreading viruses. So these are some things that I wanted to give you tips on, or basic tips for better videos. And I'm going to use my notes because there's quite a bit here that I'm going to talk about. I have about two pages worth of stuff, and it's all free. And it's probably pretty decent advice too. I'm kind of going to assume that you watch this channel because you enjoy the quality of the videos. That's been my goal for a long time. And I think most of the time we achieve the goal. If the success of the channel is any indication, we're doing okay. So these are an overview of tips that can help anyone take better videos with an automatic style camera or camcorder or phone or whatever. And some of these tips can be applied to still photos as well. So, but the program is more specifically about videos. And I'm going to focus mostly on videos that you might take outdoors, of big prototype trains. But I have these models that I was talking about just off camera here, because I am going to also talk a little bit about some tricks that you can use when you're making videos of your models as well. So first off, and this is a real sticking point for me, use a tripod, okay? Because there's nothing worse than trying to watch a video that makes you seasick from watching it. And what I mean by that is, people who don't do this for a living maybe don't have the steadiest hands or understand all the features in a camera that can allow you to get away with taking a shot handheld. A lot of the time you'll see, especially on Chasing Trains videos, you'll see shots that are very steady, but that I didn't use a tripod for, because I've been doing this so long and I know the cameras that I'm using well enough to get away with that. And one really easy trick, if you don't have a tripod and there's nothing around to steady the camera, like a fence post or something like that, that's one of the tips, is you can use a fence post or a utility box or anything that's around as long as you can get the angle right. You know, you can put coins under the camera to raise or lower the front or the back to get the tilt right, and just put it on a fence post or something, and there's your tripod. But if you're not going to do that and you want to have a steady shot, don't zoom up, okay? Have the zoom pulled back as far as possible, because when you zoom up, that really exaggerates any motion in the camera, because it's taken everything and made it much bigger. So the smallest movement that turns the camera at all on the picture really goes, you know, crazy. So that's one sort of workaround if you don't have a tripod, can't afford it or whatever, using other stuff that's there, or keep making sure that you're zoomed all the way back so that the motions are not overwhelming. If you do have a tripod and you're going to use it, level the tripod before you take your shot. So a lot of tripods, and I have one here because I wanted to show this to you. A lot of tripods have levels built in. Actually, no, it's probably easier if I just pick up the camera that I'm using here and do it this way. If you look here, you can see this tripod has a built-in level right here. And if your tripod doesn't have a built-in level like that, you can use your horizon as a level. So zoom back and kind of look, you know, if you're on flat land, it's real easy. You just look at your horizon and make sure that the space on this side is equal to the space on this side, and that your horizon, do you see what I'm trying to show you here on the screen? Because if it's not equal, your horizon will be like that. So that's a good trick to use your horizon. I kind of had to come up with that one because for a long time I had on my main tripods that I use, I had levels that were dried up, and it took a while. I finally made a video of how to replace the levels in your tripod. They're bubble levels. And just like my video that I talked about last time, I'm pretty sure that I put the replacing your bubble levels in your tripods on channel 2, TSG channel 2. It might be on TSG channel 1. If it isn't, what I'll do to make it easy for you guys to find is I'll go ahead and upload it to this channel as well sometime in the coming week or two. So keeping the shot level, it's always a good idea. Sometimes you can fix it in post-production, but you kind of have to know sort of the advanced features of video editing tools or editing programs that you have, and some don't even do it. So it's better to start out with a level shot to begin with. Now, this is one that I realize is sort of a personal preference, but it's important to me. And I know that when I'm watching videos, if there's a lot of motion in the camera, it makes it much harder for me to watch. So what I mean by motion is zooming. People, for some reason, love to zoom around, like up close and back and close and back. You know, it can be a cool effect, but it can ruin your shot. So if you have one chance at something, like last year in May, I was out running around Utah and Wyoming trying to record the 4014, you know, the big boy, as it was running back and forth from Cheyenne out to Ogden and then back to Cheyenne. Well, it was only coming by one time. So I did not want to risk movement with the camera ruining a shot that I had only one chance at. So that can be a big deal. Now, if you're out and you're just doing run-bys of freight trains and it's a busy line and you're going to get a bunch of run-bys that day, there's nothing wrong with experimenting around with it. You know, generally speaking, one freight train's kind of the same as the next. Unless there's some special power or something on it, but you probably don't know that until it's too late anyway. So I'm just really conservative when it comes to motion, tilting the camera. By the way, I might as well tell you this since I'm on the topic. Tilting is this direction, up and down. That's not panning. Panning is a horizontal movement. I hear people talk about, oh, pan over here or pan up to that or whatever. It's like, no, this is not a pan. This is a pan. Just FYI. So zooming, tilting, and panning, they have a really strong possibility of ruining your shot. So, just be smart and do the motion or non-motion, depending whether you're going to have another chance at your shot. Okay, so, here's a good one. Use more than one camera if you have them. And I have a couple of props in here to show you. Tell you what I'll do. I think I'm going to move the webcam over here so you'll see my tripod that I'm trying to demonstrate this with. Or actually, no, I'll just put the tripod behind me here. Check this out. So here's my main camera, right? Now, I have these little contraptions that I use for other cameras. This one is a clamp that I can just put right on the tripod. Check this out. It's almost like I've done this a few times. I've discovered that the best way to do it is to clamp it to this deal right on the neck, and then I push the neck down so that it doesn't move. Now look what I have. I actually have two cameras here. I have my phone, which I could have looking in that direction up the track, right? And then I could have my other camera looking up the other direction. Now I don't even have to move my main camera to get the train oncoming and then going away. I have two cameras now. And you may not realize this, but a lot of the shots you see, especially on chasing trains videos, are taken with phones or a phone. And that has a lot to do with, knowing how to use it, knowing how to edit that so that the pictures actually match. Because your phone processes colors a little bit differently than your camera will, almost certainly. But it's a great tool. There's another one I have here that I've also used on a clamp like this, but I've found other ways to use it too, which is a GoPro, okay? GoPros have these they're great little clamps and attachments and all kinds of stuff that you can use to attach them in a lot of different places. So what you do is you put your GoPro in your case like that, and then I'm not going to snap it down, but you find the tool. Let me find it here. I have a little GoPro bag that has all my stuff in it. This is the one I'm looking for. You see this guy here? This is called a shoe mount. I'm going to attach my GoPro to this and then check out what I can do with this. I can attach my GoPro right on the shoe of the main camera. Now, just like before, there's two things that I use this for. If I'm watching a train coming from over here, I'll point the camera over there and I will zoom it up so that I get that nice compressed shot where the train is coming up and you can see it big in the picture, and it stays big in the picture for a long time because it's moving in a compressed shot, which is what zoom basically does to your shot. And then I'll use the GoPro as my backed up shot, because I know when I edit this, at some point the train will be too close to use that zoomed shot, and then I know that I will switch my view to the GoPro. Now, another thing you could do is you could turn the GoPro so that it's looking the other direction, like this. And this essentially will give you the same thing. You have the oncoming shot, which I think most people probably tend to prefer. You have the oncoming shot, and then the GoPro's getting your going away shot. So that's another thing you can do with very simple tools like what I'm showing you here. So you'll also notice something funny. I don't know if you can see it on the webcam. So let me take it off and show you. My GoPro case also has fuzzy stuff on it. You see it? For wind noise. Just like the camera has the fuzzy stuff on it for wind noise. So I'm having fun. These are like, tips that have taken me a really long time to come up with, and I hope it's going to help you guys. Okay, so fake fur. Oh, here's a favorite of mine. Use manual controls whenever possible. That's what it says right here. Manual controls whenever possible and whenever appropriate. And I'll give you an example of when it might be appropriate to not use manual controls. So if you've seen the Chasing Trains video that I did of the 4014 and 844, I believe it's episode 2. That's a 4-part Chasing Trains episode, Chasing the 4014. And I think it's in episode 2. It's either 1 or 2. And we were out at an overpass that went over the track at a place called Stoddard Road near Morgan, Utah. And the weather that day was kind of overcast, but every so often the sun might peek out. And I had 4 cameras on that overpass, and they were all set to manual because I didn't think the sun was going to come out, and I guessed wrong. So when the sun came out, which happened right when the train was coming by, I think 3 of the shots that I had were not unusable, but almost unusable. I had to go through a lot of trouble in post-production to try to make the shots that were blown up from the sun coming out usable, because manual controls basically locks the camera to a specific set of settings. So for example, the first thing I always do is set my exposure. And for this camera, I have it set up to just be a little button here. I have a question. Yes?
They want to know how you can get around the fisheye effect on the GoPro.
Oh, the GoPro fisheye effect you can turn off. Now, my GoPro, I'll get back to the auto and all that settings in a minute. My GoPro is a Hero, I think it's a Hero 6 Black. It doesn't say on it, I don't think. And if you go into the GoPro app on your phone, which I realize some people don't use the app on the phone. I didn't even think about that. I think I'll add that to my list of tricks and tips for the 101 video. Let's see here. Maybe it says Hero. Oh, it's a Hero 5 Black. On the app, I'm going to see if I can find it. I might need to have the camera on to be able to show you this, but that's a good question. I'm glad somebody asked that. I'm going to see if I can find it on the app.
They have some information on the GoPro 8 I think they said on sale right now.
Oh.
Human City Junction said it's on sale.
Cool.
$100 off right now.
Cool. I'd like to get a better GoPro. Yeah, I can't get to the settings.
Linear
In the GoPro app, which is the only way you should use a GoPro. There was somebody that I knew. Well, I'm not going to go into that. So let's just say there was someone I knew that had a GoPro who didn't even have the app, and it was hell because I use this for layout tours quite a bit. You can set this down on a layout and get really cool shots. I call them railfan view because it's like a small person, right? Because that's about as tall as a HO scale person. But anyway, it's in here. You have a setting, and it says wide, super wide. I just don't remember the terms they use, but one of them is linear, and it's the smallest picture, but it gets rid of the fisheye as much as you can. Okay, there's always going to be some fisheye just because of the lens on those things, just like there's a lot of fisheye in a webcam like what we're using here today. So anyway, that was a great question, by the way. Who asked that question?
I don't remember.
Oh,
sorry.
Well, whoever, she doesn't remember. Good question. All right. That's how you do that. Okay, so I was talking about manual controls. So this is going to be probably kind of hard to show you, but I'll do my best. I'm going to bring the camera over here.
Super wide and linear.
Super wide and linear?
Super wide and linear.
Okay, so super must be the most fisheye effect then, right? Yeah. All right. So, oh, this actually looks better than I thought it would. I wasn't able to really test this earlier. Try to get this to where it's in focus. You know what? I think there's a better way to do this. All right. Let's do it this way. I'm using one of my amazing, what do I call these things? The little gooseneck things for our video here today. All right. Can you see this guy? Kind of. It looks a little... It looks out of focus. I'm not sure. Oh, here we go. It looks like that's about as good a focus as we're going to get. So in this camera, it's menu driven. And most of your consumer cameras, this is what they call a prosumer camera, meaning it's a little bit more, what's the word for it? Pro than your typical cheap cameras. Does that make sense? Oh, now it's going out of focus again. I knew this was going to happen. It won't be like this when I do the 101 video. There we go. No, it just doesn't know what to focus on. There we go. So in this camera, like most of your consumer cameras, it's menu driven how to get to things. But because this is a prosumer camera, I'm going to see if I can get the reflection of the webcam out of it. Because this is a prosumer camera, I can assign functions to certain buttons on the camera. So the one I was kind of pointing at earlier that lets me adjust the exposure, I'll tell you what, I'm going to take the lid off and we'll just look at whatever's there. I'm really surprised it's having so much trouble focusing. There we go. Just needed something to focus on. This is not a very exciting shot, but it'll do the trick. So when I push my exposure button on the back of the camera, you see this little thing that's popping up on the right side of the left side of the screen there. It says plus and minus 0. I can make that plus 2, I think up to 3. Yeah, it goes up to 3. And you see how, oh, it's out of focus again. Darn it. It really blew out the shot though. You see how it got really bright? Or I can bring it down. Let's try to get it to focus again. This is one of the things I really hate with webcams is they're automatic. I don't know of a webcam that you can do manual controls on. If you go lower, now it's going to make it much darker. See how it's getting darker in the picture there? Having this go out of focus is really irritating me. So that's what I'm talking about. And then there's automatic or manual focus, which I have assigned to this button here. See how it says MF? I know MF means something different to a lot of people, but in this case, it means manual focus. Now the focus is controlled by the focus ring that's up near the lens. And manual focus comes in handy, especially if you're doing a shot of a train that's coming toward you and your angle is kind of shallow. I really prefer to not have that kind of angle because it really messes with your depth of field, which is how much of the train can be in focus at any given time. And it's also pretty unsafe to be that close to the tracks too. So that's one of the things I have listed as a tip, which is to get the hell away from the tracks. It's not safe, number one. And number two, you're going to have a better angle if you're back a bit. So another thing that I really tend to do is to go to the sunny side of the tracks. Okay, so what am I talking about? The sun, where I live, tends to rise and go across the sky, sort of slightly to the south. So if you're photographing or videoing a rail line that goes east and west, you should always be on the south side of the track because the sun will always be on that side of the track. And the sun is your That's your lighting equipment when you're outdoors. So when you arrive someplace, maybe you don't know about north and south and all that stuff. Look at where the shadows are. And wherever the shadows are falling, go to the other side of the track. So that'll give you the best light that you can get. It sounds like we have another question.
Yeah, Sparky wants to know, it says his autofocus still works, but he can't tap the screen to focus on a certain thing. Is there a fix for that?
Maybe his camera doesn't have that function.
Yeah, I don't know if it used to and it isn't doing it. It's probably just a setting that's off.
Yeah, I don't really know, Dave. I'd have to see the camera to know for sure. And, you know, I apologize. I kind of got away from manual controls. I want to talk a little bit about another manual control thing, which is sort of out of order. But since I have the camera and it seems to be focused now on our video viewfinder, I want to talk about the white balance. And what Dave's talking about is the autofocus. If I turn it to autofocus, this particular camera lets me do what Dave was just talking about. I can tell the camera, look, I want to focus on that corner of that cabinet over there. And it'll stay focused on whatever's in that little box that popped up. I don't know that every consumer camera has that. I think most consumer cameras are not that sophisticated. So that may or may not be of a lot of use to you. But here's a good one. What about white balance? If you look on my viewfinder here, you'll notice, let me get something I can point with. You'll notice that there's a little sun icon right over here. I have my camera set to default to sun because most of what I record is either outside or here in my studio where I have lights that are specifically in the 5,000 to 6,000 Kelvin range, which is very similar to sunlight. That's why the color on my product spotlights usually looks good. Like you can tell that the yellow on a UP yellow model is armor yellow. It doesn't look orange or something else because it's under light and the camera is calibrated to that specific light temperature. So I have that set to sun preference. Now, most consumer cameras are default to automatic, which is fine. You turn it on, it kind of decides whatever it thinks the light is, and it just calibrates according to what it thinks. Now, say you're taping something and your consumer camera just won't make it look like what you see in front of you. Well, I'll show you how to do it on this camera, and it may be different for your camera, but this will give you something to look for. If I go to my functions here, it pops up this menu. And if I go down here, whoops, where's here somewhere? White balance, here it is. See this white balance right here? WB white balance. If I push that, check this out. You have a whole bunch of different things you can do here. You can do automatic, which your consumer camera will always have automatic default. Shade, because believe it or not, even though you're outside, color in the shade is a lot different than what it is in the daylight. So if you have a nice, bright, sunny day, like what we have here in California today, you'd have it on daylight. If you're filming something that's behind a building, but it's still in daylight, you would use shade. That way the color of the train going through will look right. If it's overcast, cloudy is a good option if you have it. And I wanted to show you this because that's what these little icons are for. Now, mine has a bunch of other more advanced features down here. The ones up top here are the ones you normally see on a consumer camera, and I moved it down to show you this one as well. There's also a light bulb setting, and that's for a tungsten or an incandescent bulb. You'd want to try that one. So if you're indoors recording on a layout and it has compact fluorescents that are sort of that orange color, that's the one that you'd want to try first. If you have different fluorescent options, try one of those, because one of those might work. This is the cool thing about this particular camera, is that I also have different settings that I can do. These are actually manual settings. And believe it or not, some consumer cameras have a manual white balance setting. And if you're going to film on a layout, you should probably use the manual white balance. And I'll show you how to do it. Let me see. Okay. So say I want to do a white balance with what I'm doing right now on this camera. I would push this set button. Hello. Push. There it is.
What camera do you use?
I'm sorry. I should have mentioned that. This is a Canon XA10. Any of the XA series are going to have very similar controls to this. And also the I think they're called the GX series is probably almost exactly the same as this. But did you see what I did? I told it, let me go back, because I said set, and then take something that's white. I'm going to just use the paper that I've been using for my notes here, and I'm going to put it there. And I'm going to make sure that this paper is catching the light that is in the room. And then you push this set white balance, and it's going to think about it for a minute. And it was calibrating, and it says we're at 4,500 Kelvin. So I take the paper away, and of course the webcam's out of focus now. Let's try to get it back in focus. Hello, webcam. Where are you? Oh, I hate webcams. Okay, now it doesn't want to work for some reason. There it goes. Now, it's kind of hard to tell with the webcam because, like I said, it's completely automatic. But what I'm looking at here actually looks more like what's down there in that filing cabinet is sort of a tannish color. And on my screen here, it looks just like what I'm looking at in person. So if I were going to film something that's over there, I would use this setting that I just set it to. So basically, white balance it's a mystery to a lot of people, because it's like, well, what is that? I don't understand. It's basically the way your camera is interpreting the colors that it's seeing. Now, some of our advanced editing programs have post-production white balance. Final Cut Pro 10, which is what I use, has that. So if I just show up and my camera is wrong, but I'm in a hurry and I just take the shot, as long as there's something in that picture that has equal amounts of white and black, or is pure white or pure black, I can white balance by using that after the fact. Now, most of us don't have those kind of tools. So what I'm going to tell you here is get the best possible shot to begin with, because it's much easier to work with a good shot than to try to fix a really bad shot, especially if you don't have the experience of doing that for a long time like I do. So that's funny. I just mentioned that, and that was the next thing on my list of stuff to talk about. Okay, so I wanted to talk a little bit. Let me take the camera off of the view screen on that other camera real quick. Okay, here we go. Sorry, this is probably a worse shot for you guys, but I think it's boring to watch the view screen of another camera for so long.
Human City Junction says, why not buy 4 GoPro 8s instead of 1 Canon XA11?
You could do that too. But here's the problem, though, if it's a problem. With a GoPro, you don't have your zoom functions. Now, if you're not going to use your zoom functions, I would do even one better than that. I would get 2 or 3 phones that have 4K or better video. Like this iPhone 7, this does 4K video. My camcorders don't do 4K video. They do 1080. That's it. And if I want to upgrade to the next release of a Canon camcorder like what I'm using that does 4K, it's like $1,500. You can get used iPhone 7s for $200 or $300 a piece. And these are 4K cameras. So if you don't care about all the manual controls and the zoom and all that stuff that people normally use with camcorders, use a phone. I would totally be into that if I didn't want to have the versatility of being able to zoom and being able to use manual settings. Something else that you will lose if you use a phone or a GoPro is the ability to use external audio, which is something else that I use as often as possible. When I record product spotlights here in this studio, I always use external audio. I never, ever use the built-in microphones because they are way too hot and they would pick up every, chirping bird and lawnmower and screaming kid in my neighborhood. And that's not what I want to present to you guys. I want to present as clean of audio as possible. As a matter of fact, I'm using an external microphone for this live stream. I just don't like internal microphones. They don't do a good job. I mean, they do a good job if that's all you have and that's what you have to use. But I don't know. I'm kind of a stickler for these things. So what's good enough for you may not be good enough for me. I'm just trying to give you guys some options that might make your stuff, might improve your videos. So there are other controls. I think really the most important ones to worry about if you're out recording trains or doing layouts or something like that are the three that I've talked about here: the focus, the white balance, and the exposure. Those are the three easiest ways to mess up your shot. There are other things if you want to get into them, like shutter speed and frame rate. Probably for the 101 video, I'll talk about those. The what?
What about shooting indoors and not outdoors? So more shooting their models and having, Sparky had asked, how do you know you have balanced light, like top, bottom, sides? Do you need backlight stuff, which is inside type issues?
Okay. Well, I'm going to talk a little bit about filming on a layout. So let me see. I'm going to check my notes real quick. Yeah, I guess that's really what I wanted to talk. All of what I wanted to talk about talking out or talking about filming outside. So let's talk about filming inside. So one thing that I will mention right off the top is you want to make sure that if there are windows in the room where the layout is that you're trying to film, that you match the color from the outside with whatever your lights are inside. Or say you can't do that. Say you have really yellow lights inside because they're built in, they're can lights. Like I have can lights in this office that are fluorescents that I think are around 4100 Kelvin. And if I turn those on and try to have my 5000 or 5500 LEDs on, it pollutes, it contaminates the light. So, and I'm thinking specifically in Sparky's case, I've noticed this too. His lights that are the ones that he bought for use on his videos are much sort of bluer than the other lights that I've noticed in the layout room there. So it confuses the heck out of his webcam. If you watch his live shows, you'll see that the background looks much yellower than the foreground almost looks kind of greenish or bluish. So if you want to use the interior lights, block out the windows. Just put cardboard in them or on the outside, whatever it takes to make the sunlight not come in. That would be my best, easiest way to fix that kind of a problem, and just light what's inside with the lights that you have inside. Now, if you have can lights and then you also have additional lights, like right now, if I move this around, you'll see that I have this light here. Those are just 5000 or 5500 Kelvin lights that I have reflecting off of my white ceiling to give a nice diffuse look in here. And you'll notice that I have the window shade down because that diffuses the exterior lighting, which is very similar in terms of color to what's in here. If you want to use lights like that, but you also have can lights that are a different color, turn one of them off. You have to make a decision. Either turn these off or turn these off, because they're different colors, and you're going to have a scene, especially if you're using a camera that's not manually controlled with white balance. You just want to have all the same color lights. That's always the best option, is just have all the same color lights. If you mix colors, you're going to regret it later, because it'll screw up your shot, or it just won't look right. Or I guess if it doesn't look right, it did screw up your shot. So that's one thing. I wanted to talk a little bit about phones, because phones like my iPhone sometimes have really good cameras in them. And there's a great trick on these things that if you know about it, it'll make filming or taking pictures of models much easier, and your results also will be much better. So I'm going to try to set this up here and try to arrange the webcam so that you can see what I'm trying to show you. This will just take me a minute to set up. Okay. So first things first, I'll show you what I'm setting up. And I think I'll use my N scale model for this. I put these here for a reason, and it was so that I could show you this, what I'm about to show you. So I put my tripod over here to hold my clip deal. Really sorry about all the seasick video. This is the only way I can do this kind of a live stream at home, though. But check this out. I'm often surprised how many people don't know this. So I thought I would share it with you here today. Okay. Now, if we're lucky, the webcam will stay focused on the iPhone. So let me take the iPhone away and you'll see what I'm looking at. Got a couple of models down here. Let's just put this one on the tracks. But I really want to focus on the SD9. So I'm going to put my iPhone here. Oh, look, it's still looking at the GoPro thing. Go to the phone app, the camera app, and check it out. It looks like it's going to cooperate. Good. I was afraid I was going to try to do this and have it not work. So let's get a shot of the SD9. Let's pretend we're going to simulate that we're going to do a video of this thing. Here's what I would do. If I wanted to get a good shot of the SD9 running past here, I would put it there first. And this is the trick. First, go to video. If you push right here and hold your finger down, you see that little square that it made? That means that it's now locked. So as long as it's in focus, which it looks like it is, now you could back the train up, start the camera, and run the train through. And the camera in the phone is not going to go brighter or darker. That's one of the things that's really frustrating for me with an automatic iris or an automatic exposure setting, is that when something dark enters the picture, everything gets brighter in the picture. You may have noticed this, like if someone's filming a steam engine, that those tend to be dark colors like black, and they're just using a regular consumer camera. When the train enters the picture, the sky, which originally was a nice blue color, is suddenly white because the camera has compensated for the lack of light on that object in the picture. The same thing would happen with this Southern Pacific locomotive because it's black. And if it fills up enough of the screen, the camera processor in the phone would be like, whoa, everything's dark now. Let's make everything brighter so you can actually see what this guy is trying to film. And it would do the same thing. It would get brighter and darker. And if I was pulling a string of cars that had a bright white, like a reefer, an ARMN reefer or something like that in it, which may be prototypically inaccurate for something this old, but I'm just using it as an example. If that, as soon as that came through, then the picture would get darker because the camera's like, whoa, there's all this light. We need to shut down the iris a little bit so that people can see what they're trying to look at. So if you lock it, like I just did, by pushing and holding it to where that little square shows up, over on this side, it says AE/AF lock. That means auto exposure and auto focus has been locked. So it focused on the SOTH down here and it kept that focus. So that's how you make a better video with your camera. Focus it and lock it first by having your subject in the picture, then start the camera and run it through. Your videos will be so much better, especially if you're doing a video of an oncoming shot like this. And you put the locomotive or whatever part of the train where you want it to be when you want that to be in focus. Like say I'm doing a shot like this and I want the train to be in focus from here to here. I would put the train there, I'd lock it like this, and I would run it through. So this stuff over here is going to be out of focus, and the stuff way up here is going to be out of focus, but the part that you want to have in focus will be in focus. And again, I apologize. You're seeing the picture go in and out of focus because of this webcam I'm using. When I do the video 101 class or video that I'm planning, it won't do that because I'm going to be using my manual control cameras to make that video. So there was something else that I thought of just a minute ago. Oh, I remember what it was.
Grandpa just super chatted you.
Oh, there's a super chat. Thanks. Super chat. Grandpa, that's John Dillage. Thank you very much for the super chat. I guess I should have mentioned that the super chat's on. I told you I'm bad at self-promoting.
Sparky says it's wig time.
Oh, I don't have wigs. That's your trick, Dave. I don't have that. I could do a sock puppet though, or something like that.
He's chanting wig, wig, wig.
Yeah,
wig.
it's not going to work. Peer pressure only works when we're.
Find a wig for you.
Yeah, peer pressure only works when we're in person. Like when we were at the interlocking tower that one day, he had his wigs and we were doing a live thing. Like, you know what? What the hell? I'll put it on. You can find that. That was a live show from almost a year ago when Dave was out here visiting for almost a week. It was pretty fun. So the other thing I was going to mention is the rule of thirds. And what that is it has to do with composition. So I think probably I'll do it just with the phone here and use the what do you call it? The trains in the picture as an example to sort of make the points that I'm going to try to make here. So the rule of thirds basically is it takes your screen and divides it up into thirds. So if you could imagine a vertical line here and a vertical line here so that you have a left third, a right third, and a middle third, okay? Then you do the same thing with horizontal lines. So it kind of looks like a tic-tac-toe board. You have a top third, and then between these two would be a middle third, and then below the skewer now would be the lower third. So if you can imagine a grid like that on your screen, let me make it bright again. Wherever those lines intersect, there'll be 4 points where all those lines intersect. One would be somewhere about here, one would be somewhere about here, somewhere about here, and somewhere about here. And what you want to do for what's considered a pleasing shot is have your subject somewhere in those, where those dots are. Okay, so for example, if I were going to set up a shot of this locomotive, I would do something like this. let me get the other locomotive out of the way just so you can see this.
Can't you display the grid? Most phones
I don't think I can display the grid on this phone, but junction is correct. A lot of phones and a lot of camcorders have this grid built in. But I want to show you this. What I see a lot of people do is put it right in the middle, like this. Well, that's a little more than the middle, but something like that. And you can always tell if someone doesn't know about the rule of thirds, because whatever you're looking at is always in the middle. If you watch my videos, nothing's ever in the middle, or almost never in the middle. It's always slightly off to one side or slightly up or slightly down, because this is a much more pleasing shot to people's eyes. And this is especially true if you're going to do videos with people in them. You want to put someone's face here or here, and never here. You'd want their eyes to be here or here, depending where the background is, and never here. It's just an aesthetics thing. And art uses the same concept. If you take an art class, you'll learn about the rule of thirds, and they'll tell you to put whatever your subject is around one of those points on the camera or on the screen or the paper, as it were, whatever your medium is. So when I'm out filming big trains, and also whenever I do a video about a layout or something, that's a very pleasing look, because you're catching this point and you're catching this point down here. And another thing is diagonals are also very pleasing to people's eyes. So if you can get a shot that's a diagonal or has a diagonal in it somewhere, so whether it's your horizon or something like that, where there's a mountain or something that goes down, or if you want to place your tracks like this, that's a good way to do it. Something I tend to do when I'm out, and you'll notice if I tell you this, and if you go and watch one of my prototype train videos, you'll notice that almost always one of the rails ends up in the corner down here, just like this. Because I know if I do my guesstimation of when the train's coming and I guess the height of the train properly, it'll be an equal amount on the top and on the bottom of space. Do you see what I'm saying? I don't know if I'm explaining this right. This is one of the things, though, that I'm really passionate about it, because I've seen a lot of videos that would have been so much better if the person taking the video knew some of these really basic things that I'm sharing with you today. You know, maybe it was the 4014 coming by and it was a once in a lifetime shot and they had something really cool in the background but didn't know how to frame it. You're like, oh man, if only they had framed that whatever, you know, this way instead of the way they did. So I'm going to try to take questions for a few minutes here, because we've been going for over an hour and I don't have the slightest idea how many people are watching or what's going on.
49 watching, you had
How many?
49.
Oh, okay,
now,
cool.
you
So
had 60 some.
There's actually a fair number of people watching. So watch what I'm about to do here with my webcam. Look where I am. I'm on the third right here. I do this every time, because here, to me, this can work as long as the head's not, you know, too high or too low. If your eyes are on this horizontal line here, this horizontal line, that can work. But if you can be off to the side like this, where you're catching this horizontal and this horizontal, that's even more better. Something else that I always like to do is, if I'm going to be off on this side, I want to kind of look that direction if I'm not looking directly at the camera, because what you're implying then is that you're talking to someone that's over here. Anyway, I get into this stuff and I have a lot of preferences.
Your phone stands, the things you use for your phones.
Okay, so I can talk a little bit about the things I use for my phones. Quite often I've been at layout tours, and the person that owns the layout, wherever we happen to be, almost always comments, well, you have a lot of little gadgets that you use, don't you? And what they're talking about is this. This is a little clamp for a phone, because I will use phones for layout tours too. That's what I was using when I was showing you the stuff on the desk. This clamp for the phone has a threaded hole here for a standard tripod, and also here for a standard tripod. And the thing that the webcam is sitting on is essentially one of these clamps with a gooseneck on it. And you can find this stuff. I think I got most of this stuff on Amazon. Not that I'm telling you to go buy stuff from Amazon, because I think that guy makes enough money already. But that's where I found mine. But check this out. So the clamp is clamped on the desk, and then there's a gooseneck, right, like this, with a little ball head up top. See this? And it tightens down with this thing here. And I'm lucky because the webcam that I'm using has a thread for a tripod that this fits. This is a standard tripod thread right here. And the way you work this thing is, say I wanted to put my phone on this, I would screw the clamp onto this head. And then this is to make sure it's tight, right? This little washer here makes it tight so you don't have to screw it down all the way. And then I put my phone on here like so. And if you've been out and saw me filming when I'm out chasing trains, you might have seen a setup like this, where I got my tripod or a tripod. I don't use this tripod when I'm out chasing trains anymore, but you may have seen something that looked like this, because I've had my, can you see that? I've had my phone on a tripod like this many times. What I would normally do is have the phone looking one direction and have the camera looking the other direction, or like I was talking about earlier, have them both looking the same direction, where I have the main camera, the good camera, zoomed way up, and then this one would be the shot that I know I'm going to use later when it becomes too big in this picture. Does that make sense? So does that answer that question? At least for this one. The GoPro has that thing I was showing you that connects to the shoe on the camera, this deal. And this is the same thing. It has a standard tripod thread that all these things are kind of interchangeable, and you can use any one of these things any way you want. One of the other things I will sometimes do with my phone is, if I can't get the GoPro on a layout and the phone actually is a better option for that, this clamp deal has a flat edge on either side that you can set it down on the layout. And if I want a higher shot, I can use the lens in this position and set it down this way. If I want a lower shot, and if there's room, space this way for it, I can set it this way and get the low angle. Because that's another thing. Having an offset lens on a phone like this gives you a lot of opportunities for different angles. And believe me when I say this on a layout looks way different from this. Seriously, because look how close to the surface of the layout it would be down here. What is that? Less than a half an inch off or maybe a half inch off of the ground, the simulated ground. Whereas this, that's about probably 10 scale feet up in the air. So that's a huge difference. That's like the difference between having a real camera like this, on a ladder 10 or 12 feet up in the air, or sitting on the floor looking at something. So does that answer those questions?
Yes. They also want to know what microphone you're using and a recorder.
Yeah, I don't use an external recorder generally, but I do use external microphones. And the ones that I've had the best luck with are their Audio Technica. And I don't remember. Let me see if I can find it real quick on my orders. I'll give you the exact number. Here's the thing, though. If you're going to use...
I said you put info on any products in the description.
Oh, okay. I'll try to remember to add the microphone specs or whatever. But I do want to mention this because it's important. One of the reasons why I have to use one of these prosumer cameras is for something that I'm going to show you that your camera probably doesn't have. These things right here. These are called balanced line in inputs, or XLR is another name for these. And the reason I have to use these is because the microphones that I use, sorry, it's going to get a little bit more technical here. The microphones that I use with the camera, generally speaking, are what's called condenser microphones. And condenser microphones require power. Now, you can get a condenser microphone that's powered by batteries, or you can get a condenser microphone, which I prefer, that's powered by your XLR inputs. And if you look on this side of the camera, you'll notice here, let me see if I can get it to focus. It's having trouble because it wants to focus on me. You see right here? 48 volts. See, it's going in and out of focus, but that's what I want you to see. That's called phantom power. That's where the line sends the power to the microphone through the cable, okay? So the microphones that I use might not work with your equipment, and you might need to get something like this that has powered XLR balanced inputs to use what I use. I'm just letting you know that so that when you see it, don't just order something without knowing what you're getting. There are plenty of powered condenser shotgun microphones that you can get for cameras that don't have the additional balanced inputs. But like I said, the ones I use are Audio-Technica, some kind of a shotgun mic. It's not even the most expensive ones. They're actually like $140 or something like that. And the reason I use them, I'm going to see if I can find what it is so that I can tell you here. Plus, that way, when I'm reviewing the video later, I won't have to go look it up. I'll be able to just listen, and I'll tell myself. So let me find it. Sorry, this takes a minute. It sounded like you were about to ask another question, were you?
No.
Okay. It's the Audio-Technica AT875R condenser microphone. And I don't know. I think the list price on them is about $180. But if you wait for a sale or shop around, you can probably get it for about $120 to $150. And you might even be able to get deals on those from a used one or a refurbished one or something like that. I'm trying to think if there was anything else in my list, because I've been going for about an hour and a half now, and I would prefer, I think, to just have more questions, because I'm really limited to what I can show you here just using this webcam, trying to show you stuff that I can't make it focus on what I'm trying to make it show you. So I feel a little funny. It's kind of ironic that I'm telling you about all the wonderful things about manual cameras, and I'm having to do it on a webcam that doesn't have any manual capability whatsoever.
Yeah.
I find that really crappy to deal with. I'm watching on the screen here, and it's going in and out of focus just with me here talking to you. What are you going to say?
I was just going to say, you can put information about all the gear that you use in the description.
I could put information about all the gear I use if you really want it. Some of my gear is kind of dated, though. I'll be honest. These XA10s are probably from about 8 or 10 years ago. That's when they came out. What I'd really like to be able to do is get the 4K. They have a newer one that's about 2 or 3 years old now. That's an XF, I think 405. It's about $2,500. I'd really like to have a couple of those, because the shots of the trains outdoor, especially all of the stuff that I do would be absolutely stunning in 4K. And one of the reasons I started the Patreon page was to try to increase what revenue comes in from this effort in all these videos that I make, because I'd like to be able to upgrade to 4K. That would be really good. So I guess I'll mention it again on here. Like I've always said, I don't like self-promoting, and I feel like I'm not very good at it, but I'm going to mention that to go to patreon.com/TSG Multimedia. If you can help out with $2, $5, $10, whatever, it all goes to this stuff, so it would help a lot. What were we going to say?
Sparky wants to know, when did you get involved with photography or videography, and when did you make it your livelihood?
Oh, that's interesting. So I really have been interested in videos ever since camcorders were a thing. And what I mean by that was in the 80s, I was in high school and was just fascinated with the idea that you could get something that you could make films with and watch on your TV the same day. I never got into film, like, what do you call it? Film, like 8mm film. I never got into that. So I don't really know that much about film, but video has been a thing for me since probably 1985-ish. I got my first camcorder in 1986, which I upgraded fairly quickly to, I think in 1987, to a better one. And then I started doing video professionally, meaning getting paid for it, in 1998, and quit a job that I had at that time to make videos for, really, it was mostly for Netscape. I don't know. Do you guys remember Netscape? Probably a lot of people who watch the channel don't even know what Netscape was, because you were just a baby or a little kid back then. But that was a high-tech company around here, and I knew someone who worked for that place, and they needed someone to do pro videos and to transfer those videos into all the different types of VHS, because there are like 3 or 4 different formats for VHS. A lot of people who haven't been other places in the world don't realize if you live in the United Kingdom, you have a completely different format for your videos than what we have in North America. Anywhere in Europe usually uses PAL. There are other places that use one called SECAM, SECAM, and we use something called NTSC here. So Netscape had offices all around the world, so they needed someone to film or to record here. I use video record or videotape interchangeably with film, because basically you're recording something. So I call it filming because you're recording something that's visual. So it's not technically right to say you're filming something with this video camera over here. So I just want to mention that. I recorded these informational sessions for them and then transferred those or converted those sessions into all the different formats that they needed, and then got those videos back to them, and they shipped them out worldwide. Well, I knew how to do that stuff because I was into video at the time, more as a hobby. That's when it really became sort of a profession for me. And I've done dozens of, weddings. I did births, right, of babies. That was interesting because it wasn't, huh? Funeral. Yeah, I did a funeral. That was depressing. You don't ever want to video a funeral. It was kind of ironic because I didn't even know the guy, and I was depressed for like 2 days because something happened at the funeral that was it hit me hard watching it. I'm not going to get into that right now, but so, I mean, really that's the short answer. It was 1998 is when I started doing this stuff professionally. And then I did my first video about trains in 2005. That was the Caltrain video that I know a lot of people discovered TSG Multimedia because of the Caltrain video. Another one that came after the Caltrain video was about ACE. It was the Altamont Commuter Express at the time. Now they've changed the name to Altamont Corridor Express. That's another commute train that runs between San Jose and Stockton. That was a really good one. You can buy these on the TSG Multimedia website, by the way, in DVD form or digital download. That's another way you can help support my work, is if you want to buy a video. So, ever since 2005, it's just grown. I had a sales job between 2005 and 2015. And when I quit that sales job in 2015 was when I really dedicated myself to trying to make the YouTube channel into a source of revenue that I could actually survive off of. And it's still on its way, getting there. Luckily, when I was working, I was in sales, so I made a bunch of money at the time and was able to save a lot. So that's how I've been able to do this. But it's not indefinite, or I think indefinite's the right word. It's not infinite. There's a limited amount. And eventually, if I don't get the YouTube channel going really rocking and rolling, I'm going to have to probably be miserable again working for other people, which would really suck. Please don't make me do that. But, yeah, you were going to say?
Hold on.
I'm going to get a drink because I'm starting to feel hoarse here.
Delays on the
Oh,
They want to know if Bill wants to know if there's a chance of you filming a live op session at Dave Adams.
oh, interesting. Who's Bill?
Bill Greason.
Oh, interesting. I'm surprised I don't know Bill if Bill knows Dave. A live one? I would have to talk to Dave about that first, and I would have to go to his house and run a speed test on his Wi-Fi to see if it's possible. I would like to talk to Dave about doing a model railroading 101 video that's about timetable and train order, because that's what he runs on his layout. Dave Adams is a friend of ours who has an ON3 layout, a beautiful layout. You can see a layout tour of his layout on this channel. If you search for the Durlin branch, Rio Grande, it's Durlin branch. It's a layout tour. Beautiful layout. It's one of the best layouts I've seen. Dave's funny. Every time I tell him how great his layout, he's so humble. He's like, oh, it's okay. I love giving him a hard time, tell him how great his layout is, because I think he gets a little bit embarrassed. It's a really nice layout. You can also see that one there's a Chasing Trains episode coming out about a month from now. That's called Fabio Goes to California. That's when our friend Alvin Gilbert came out from Utah and was here for about a week back in January. And we went to Dave's house because I wanted to show Alvin Dave's layout, and Dave didn't miss a beat. Before I knew it, he had a throttle in Alvin's hand and was having him run a train on the layout, which I thought was really nice and really cool of him to do. So you'll actually get to see it on that video as well. So, but yeah, I would like to do a live op session. It might be a little confusing just because, well, one, I haven't been to one of Dave's operating sessions. I would like to go and observe first myself. And I'd like to get the timetable and train order video done with Dave, just so that I know more of what is interesting to show. But that would be a cool one. That would be a really cool one, because I have the ability to set up as many as, I think, 4 cameras right now to do a live show like that. If you watch the channel on a regular basis, you may remember before I started doing these shelter in place live streams, once a month on this day, we would do a live discussion panel from the South Bay Historical Railroad Society, South Bay Historical Railroad Society at the Santa Clara Depot here. But it's closed right now because of the virus. And the equipment that I use for those sessions is what I would need to use at Dave's house. And that's a whole different show because doing a live stream with multiple cameras is something that I really kind of just got into more recently when I started doing the discussion panels, the TSG live crew lounge shows. And boy, is that a lot of fun. I was originally, I guess I'll tell you this since I'm on the topic. Originally, I was going to use webcams like what I'm using for this show. But, I tried some experimentation with the webcams and just was not impressed with the results that they provided, and thought, if I could use my real cameras with real microphones, the production quality would be so much better. That's what I thought. And I'll tell you what, the production quality using the equipment that I'm using for those shows is very good. I haven't seen a lot of live videos with this same production quality that I get with what I use for those live streams. In trains, I don't think I've seen any live streams that are that good. I've seen some that come pretty close, but there's just something about, knowing how to use the lights and knowing how to use the microphones and all that stuff. And I'm not perfect by any stretch. Well, let me put it this way. I sometimes struggle because I'm using stuff that I haven't tried before, but having the knowledge of how it works and how to make it work right, I don't make the same mistakes more than once. I'll put it that way. So anyway.
How about a chance for people to share their latest video or blog post or their channel?
Yeah, we can do that. If you have a channel or a video that you want to share, keep it G-rated, put it in the comments section on the video here. And, we can do some sort of general chat if you want to. Do you guys have any questions? Any other questions? I think I was able to get a window opened that will allow me to look at the, yeah, I can see these now. Gordon Fletcher, watching from New Zealand, have been following this channel for a while now. Great work. Thank you very much, Gordon.
Even City says he wants to get an ATEM mini camera so he can use nicer cameras for live stream.
Oh, I think I saw that ATEM thing. I don't know how that works. The one that I've been using is called a Sling Studio, and it's actually pretty limited, but the quality of the stream, the HD stream, is really nice. I've been so impressed with the quality that I get from that thing that I'm hesitant to even think about trying something else. While we're all promoting our stuff, I'll do some promotion too here. Let's see, 4 HDMI inputs. So Human, is that a switcher or is it? It has to be a switcher. Like, why else would you need 4 HDMI inputs? Hey, James is here. James Brasil. Dude, how's it going? TSG train crew in force. I really appreciate that. I just was mentioning that I was going to, it is a switcher. Okay. Yeah, the Sling Studio has 4 active inputs. And one of the cool things about the Sling Studio, I promised myself I wouldn't do this, but since I'm on the topic, the Sling Studio allows me to use a phone like this on a Wi-Fi network to stream in there. So if I had 4 iPhones, I could use those as my cameras and then run an external audio into the Sling Studio and have the microphones on the table, for example. And that's one thing that I still am working on. I do like the audio that I get when we're at the Santa Clara Depot, and I think it's good enough for what we're doing, but I know it could be improved. The problem that I have right now with my live shows is I'm doing everything. I'm operating the cameras and I'm doing the directing, the choosing which camera, and I'm trying to be kind of a moderator to ask the questions that you guys ask. So having to run a soundboard also, in addition to everything else that I'm doing when we make those videos, it's too much, What I really need is someone who can run sound, who's good at it and knows what they're doing to run sound so that we can improve the sound, because I think I can handle doing the videos. So yeah, I'll have to figure that out. Human, if you have information that you'd like to share, I don't know, where do you live? Are you in the Bay Area or are you someplace else? Let me know. The Sling Studio also has a sound mixer, but I find the Sling Studio controls, their interface on my computer, to be pretty clunky. It doesn't seem like it's really easy to find what I need. And you're right, sound really does make a video. That's why I use the fuzzy stuff on my cameras to get rid of the wind noise, because I can't stand wind noise. If there's one thing that irritates me, was when I see a really great video, like a once in a lifetime shot, but it just happened to be out someplace where it was windy and the person didn't have a screen on their microphones, it ruins it for me. And when it's my video, it's even worse. I'm like, oh man, I can't use that, you know? But I was going to say something. Yeah, Dead Cat. There was another brand that was called Wind Cutter. That was when I first got my original wind cutters, was the Wind Cutter, but I don't think they're in business anymore. But yeah, Dead Cat's another brand. I think people call the windscreens Dead Cats too, but it's kind of like when you call a tissue a Kleenex, even though it's not a Kleenex. But I was going to mention something about promotion. I did want to ask people, if you watch the channel and enjoy it and find it helpful, useful, entertaining, whatever, to consider going to Patreon, because I really do think that Patreon is going to be the secret ingredient that makes me able to really do this and make it my permanent until I retire job. Because like I was saying before, the savings are not infinite. And, you know, that's one of the things I hate to ask, but I wouldn't if I didn't need to. But I do want to mention also that Joey, I'm not sure how you say Joey's last name. It's Buczek. And the only CZs that I've known before is kind of a ch sound. So I'm going to say Buczek, but it's probably Buzek or something like that. It's probably the Americanized pronunciation. But Joey was talking earlier about using a TSG mug. And what he's talking about is the TSG Multimedia train crew mug. How do you say it, Joey? I'm curious. I see he put on here close enough. I do want to say one thing I think is really cool, though. Joey's professional, man, because even his hat has his name on it. He sent me a picture of himself with his mug that I think is coming out tomorrow morning. Bootzik. Okay. Bootzik. Dude, I will not remember that. Doesn't seem Bootzik. Okay. Well, I'll try to remember. But what I was going to say is Joey's talking about the TSG train crew mug. Joey's been a TSG train crew member, as has James, Brasil, and Sparky, and other people who have been on the chat here have been. Bill, I believe. I remembered your name from someplace. Theodore Kruper also recently had a train crew mug sent in. Thank you very much, Theodore. Appreciate that. I do have a question, though. Most of the Theodores I've seen go by Ted in person, and I just wondered if you go by Ted normally. The only way I've seen your name, though, is Theodore. So do you go by Theodore? It would be the first time I've heard that if you do. Just kind of curious. But I did want to mention that Patreon. That helps a lot. There's a new thing that YouTube is doing that I recently qualified for. I got an email about it recently, which is called channel memberships. And it sounds to me like they're trying to cut into Patreon business somehow by having a thing where you can pay on YouTube to, see, I'm getting a message here from Sparky that he would never do the membership thing. Yeah, see, I was thinking about that. But here's the thing, though. There are some people who won't go off YouTube to go do something different, like Patreon, and would just sign up on YouTube because it's easy. So I just wonder what you guys think about that, because to be honest, the people who care enough to watch live, you guys are the ones that I'm most interested in making happy, because here you are, watching a live thing, which I don't know about you, but if I was watching myself for, what are we going on, almost 2 hours? Holy moly. I'd be bored by now, but that's me, I don't know. Let's see. It's good to have both, but James is more interested in Patreon. Okay. I'm really figuring I'll just use Patreon, because Patreon really doesn't take much of a cut. I think it's like, 10% or something like that, compared to YouTube and their super chats here and super stickers and all that stuff. I think it's great. I appreciate it. Oh, there's another train crew member. Wicked Seafood is John Dyson. He's on the Chasing Trains video when Fabio goes to California. So you guys will get to see John. I'm trying to remember if he's been on any other Chasing Trains. I don't think so.
Sparky has a good point. YouTube doesn't have a good track record on
Sorry, I'm listening to the top secret.
Deals.
What does a deal mean?
Whatever arrangement it is with YouTube creators.
Oh, yeah.
So why would you want to now participate in YouTube members?
Right. Well, YouTube membership has been a thing for a while. I just recently qualified for it, which to me means that YouTube's just trying to generate more money because their ad revenue's down. That's my guess. But Sean McGee just mentioned it, that 10% is much better than 40%. And that's what I was going to say. I was in the middle of saying that YouTube super stickers and super chats and all that are really appreciated too. Just know that YouTube, or Google, as it were, takes a huge percentage. I mean, more than any other way. Oh, did you put that in the chat? Yeah, it's like 40%. So, and it's unfortunate, because something else that happens, I've been doing YouTube really since 2007, but I only got more serious about it when I quit that sales job about 5 years ago, almost 5 years ago. And what I wanted to mention about it is they changed stuff. So, for example, about 2 or 3 years ago, YouTube decided that they were only going to allow channels that had 1,000 subscribers or more to get monetization, to where ads can play and you can generate some small amount of revenue off of your ads. Well, at that time, and you may remember this, at that time, I had sort of recently started channel 2. So if you don't know, I'll tell you now. I have 2 channels here on YouTube. This one, which is the main one with the 35,000 subscribers. And again, thank you very much for that. And it has almost exclusively train stuff. So model trains, prototype trains, how to do model stuff. There's a little bit of stuff on how to do video, like this program was how to do video. But it was how to do video in the context of filming trains. So it's very train related. Well, the other channel, channel 2, is sort of a catch-all of everything else. So I have some life hacks on there. I really enjoy a series on channel 2. If you guys haven't seen this, go check it out. It's my favorite series of videos to make, and it's called Naturescapes. And what I do on these videos is I take my GoPro or I take my iPhone, both of which have really nice slow motion. These regular cameras that I have only do 30 frames per second, so I can't slow it down without it looking choppy. Well, my iPhone and my GoPro can be slowed down as much as 8 times slower than your normal 30 frames per second, because they go as high as 240 frames per second. So they get really nice slow motion. Naturescapes videos are shots that I take usually fairly close to where I live. I live close to trails and a county park here that has some really nice trees and grass and wildflowers and stuff like that. So I take these videos, at parks, or one I want to do, but I can't until the virus is over with, is to get out to the ocean, someplace around Santa Cruz or north or south of Santa Cruz, and do some naturescapes of ocean stuff, whether it be little tide pools with crabs in it and stuff like that. But the naturescapes are a collection. They last about anywhere from about 2 to 4 minutes, set to really nice, mellow, usually piano music, and in slow motion. And I find them so fun to make and to edit. And when it's done, I sit and I watch the whole thing, and I'm just mesmerized by these scenes of just natural beauty, I guess. I really enjoy that, and it's on Channel 2. So,
Day trips.
oh, something else that I started doing on Channel 2, but kind of went away from just because of the time involved and the amount of time that I'm having to dedicate to this channel, was something called day trips, where I would take a local park or attraction of some sort and make a video all about that. So, for example, you could do a day trip from the Bay Area to Roaring Camp. I haven't done that day trip yet, but I will at some point. Or you could do a day trip to, I did this one. There's a state, I think it's a state park right next to Roaring Camp called Henry Cowell. No, is it Henry Cowell Redwoods? Yeah, Henry Cowell Redwoods. I think that's it. Something Cowell Redwoods. Cowell. So I went there one day when a cousin of mine, who happens to have the same name as I have, was out visiting with his family. And I took a whole bunch of a whole bunch of video and photos there, and did a day trip video. Because that's a place you can go from the Bay Area. That's a really cool thing to go see and experience. Henry Cowell. I was right. Okay. I knew somebody watching would know, because I know you're closer to it than I am, James. There's also, so I want to mention, because I'm kind of watching the chat roll by, and people are talking about Vimeo, and you are absolutely right. Vimeo's encoding, whatever they use for their HD is way better than YouTube. The problem I have with Vimeo, and I have a Vimeo page, but the problem I have with it is that you have to pay to use it if you're a creator and you're going to upload a lot of stuff. And I can't really afford to. And right now, I have the YouTube channel here with thousands and tens of thousands of subscribers. And I don't know how to get that many people to go to Vimeo and to sign up on Patreon. Here's the frustration. So I've had the Patreon page open now since September of 2018. I didn't want to do it. I really didn't. I had hoped that something would happen on this YouTube channel that would go viral. So I have a friend whose channel went viral, and I don't even know how much he makes. I'm imagining it's thousands and thousands of dollars per month, because the guy has 500,000 subscribers and gets an insane amount of views. And I had hoped that maybe one of these videos that I've put out would go viral. And if it did, I wouldn't have to do Patreon. I wouldn't be doing any of that. Well, I don't think I'd be doing any of that other stuff, because I'd be making enough from the YouTube videos. But it hasn't happened yet. And what I had hoped with Patreon was having 35,000 subscribers or close to it. When I started, I had, I think, about 20,000, which goes to show how fast the channel is growing. So I know that people are watching. What I had hoped is that just even a small percentage of the people that subscribe and watch on a regular basis would kick in $2 a month or $1 or, whatever. Because if the nice thing is, when you're dealing with huge numbers like that, like 35,000, say 1% of that number, which is what, 3,500? Am I doing that right? 35,000 to 3,500. Yeah. If 3,500 people, chipped in $2 a month, that would be more than enough to keep things going. So I'm working with big numbers like that. You don't need a lot of people to do it. And that's why I don't mean to harp on it, but I keep hoping that, if I ask people nicely, and if they appreciate what I'm doing here, that enough people will. And I've got to say that the number of people who are here in the chat who are already on the TSG train crew, I'm glad you're here because I want to thank you. I know I send out thanks and I do little exclusive stuff and previews all the time on the Patreon page. But I'm going to tell you right now, since we're here, thank you again for your support. I really do appreciate it. That's something else for those of you who are not signed up on Patreon, is that if you do sign up on Patreon, usually about once a week, I will put a preview up of something that's coming out sometime in the future. Great example. This past week, I put up a video about a rail grinder train that I chased south of Watsonville it was in January. And now I don't know about you, but I've been interested in trains. Well, really, I found out recently that I've been interested in trains since I was about 2 years old. I'll tell you about that in a minute if I don't forget. But as long as I've been doing professional videos about trains, which is 15 years now, I had never seen a rail grinder. Well, there was one operating fairly close by, so I went and chased it with my friend Kevin, and we got some really cool shots at night of this rail grinder. So
People are going to love that video.
people are going to love that video. The top secret producer is saying
I love that video.
yeah, she loves the video. We were out until 3 a.m. that night, and I haven't been up until 3 a.m. in a really long time, because when you get to be a certain age and you have hair that looks like this, if you still have your hair, you get tired earlier in the evening. But it was a great chase, and it got some pretty astounding, impressive video of the rail grinder. Well, right, so the people who are signed up to the Patreon page already saw this video. It's probably not going to come out until August or something like that. So, so that's the kind of previews you'll get. Almost always, I'm showing model railroading with Jack Burgess months in advance. The people who watch on or who subscribe to the Patreon page for as little as $2 a month have seen all of the Jack Burgess videos that are in the schedule on YouTube. And one of those isn't going to come out until August. So that's the kind of thing you get. You get access to stuff before anybody else does. I've done a few things that were Patreon only that are never going to be on the YouTube channel for the general audience. And what I'm thinking I'll probably end up doing as we roll forward with this is I don't know that there's enough people on Patreon to make this worthwhile yet, but I want to do hangouts, kind of like what we're doing here, but where it's way more interactive, where we can just sit back and talk like we're hanging out at the depot and hanging around. You know what I'm saying? I think that would be pretty cool because I'd like to get ideas from you guys. And while this is cool and I'm able to see the chat rolling by here, well, it's not the same as talking to someone like in a Zoom meeting. That's something else that I've been doing a lot of since the shelter in place effect in Santa Clara County took effect. Is a lot of people are doing Zoom meetings, and I've been participating in, I think, half a dozen different groups of people that are doing this kind of thing where they just hang out on the computer talking to each other face to face on the computer, because everybody has a webcam. And it's been a lot of fun. I'll talk about that a little bit more on the podcast that's coming out in about 2 weeks from now. I don't have, because I haven't been going out, I haven't been able to go out and film stuff legally. So I haven't gone to do it since, when was it? About a month and a half ago. And that's okay, because I don't want to get sick or get anybody else sick. I don't relish the idea of knowing that I gave someone a virus that killed them. I think that's a pretty crappy thing to have happen to you. Or get it myself and not be around. Don't really want to do that yet. I still have some more train videos to make. But what I was going to say about that is, because haven't been able to get out and do stuff, I haven't been doing a lot of stuff. And as you know, if you watch the channel, the monthly podcast is kind of an update. You know, what have I been doing that you might be interested in that'll give you an idea of what's coming out in the coming months. Instead, I've been doing Zoom meetings or Skype, you know, or whatever you call those social distancing meetings. And let me see, what else have I been doing? I'm doing a lot of editing. That's how I got the rail grinder video done, because that was one of those sort of, oh, I'll edit that someday. Well, I've had a lot of time, so all of the, oh, I'll edit that someday projects are being edited now. Another thing that kind of sucks is I haven't been able to go out and do a lot of new layout tours. The last one I was able to record for was right before the shelter in place took effect. It was Dave Connery's Sierra, Carson, and Truckee HO scale layout, which is a very nice layout that's going to come out next month. So instead of layout tours, I finally got around to doing I talked about this last month because the first one just came out, I think last weekend, the model trains galore videos. The friend that I was talking about a few minutes ago that has the really popular channel with 500,000 subscribers, or he's probably over 500,000 now, did videos called Trains Galore that are like, you know, steam trains galore, passenger trains galore, these things. Well, those are the viral videos that he had. And when it happened, when his channel went viral with the galore videos, I was talking to him. He was like, oh, you should do model trains galore, because I'm not going to do that. I really just film big trains, you know? And this is like 5 years ago, and I never got around to it. I don't know. I felt like it was kind of cheap, you know, like, oh, I'm ripping off this guy's idea, or people will think I'm stealing it or something, you know, not knowing that we know each other. So I finally got around to that. And the model trains galore video so far is doing pretty well, actually. Yeah, you know, look, if you have time to watch the channel, by all means, you know, watch it while you're working on your models. Watch it while you're, you know, doing other stuff. I know a lot of people work on their models while they're watching or have the videos playing on their computer or whatever in the same room. So anyway, I should probably wrap this up. I've talked enough. I don't see a lot of other questions coming through. Everybody had a chance to promote their channels and all that. I want to keep going because I can see, at least according to my screen, we have 53 people watching, 52 now. I would be 53 again. I want to hang around and talk some more, but I feel like if I keep talking, it might get boring, won't it? What do you guys think? Should I keep yapping?
James said that they were going to do a virtual op session somehow.
James, how are you going to do a virtual op session? I'm curious. If you have... Oh, James, I meant to ask you. I got your phone number, or at least I thought I did, when I saw you last at the train show right before the shelter in place happened. And I went to send you a text message and it didn't work. So I think I don't have your correct phone number. So if you could email me your correct phone number, please do. And it was for something. Actually, I'm going to show you something kind of cool. Can you look behind that curtain beneath my pliers over there? Beneath my pliers.
Yes.
See it? The micro brushes? Let me have that. So, James, we had a discussion about what are these things called? Mentos gum. Remember? And I told you that our top secret producer here, I'm pretty sure this was a discussion I had with you. It might have been with someone else, but I'm pretty sure it was you. And we were talking about repurposing the Mentos containers. And I did. This is my new exciting micro brush holder. That's a Mentos gum container. And I found out that they're a little too tall to be able to put the lid down. Well, it was you. Okay. But this is it. That was the picture I was going to send you. So here, will you put this back, please?
James said he would do a round robin of telling the layout owner how to move the boxcar, etc.
Oh, wow, James, that sounds torturous.
Someone else said everyone sit around and heckle the one layout owner.
So Miguel Chavez wants to see trains from my collection, please. Okay, I'll show you some trains from my collection. Only because you asked me this before and I wasn't able to do it that time. There's not really a whole lot to see because I don't have any, what do you call it? Yeah, I don't have any weathered stuff. That's something else that I'm going to do. As a matter of fact, I have these crappy little, sorry, I'm going to have to pick up my webcam to show you this. I have these crappy little Bachmann cars up here that I'm going to try my hand at weathering sometime very soon. Now, all I have access to at home. Oh, and look, there's Caltrain 2005. Oh, I might as well show you guys this. This is the first ever sort of production sample version of this video that I ever did. And I keep it because it is that it's kind of special that way, because the ones that I ended up having pressed don't look exactly like this. Isn't that cool? If you have one of these videos, you'll know what I'm talking about because the back is not white like this. It's black. So anyway, let's do this. I'm going to set the camera up in a way where I can kind of show you guys these things without breaking anything.
Sparky's tagging out.
Okay.
Did a $5 super chat.
Oh, thanks for the super chat, man. Thanks to everybody for super chats and hanging out with us here. I know a lot of people have to go, but I'm gonna humor Miguel because he has to see the collection before.
Somebody asked
and
something you showed if that was an 8-track.
8-track. If what's an 8-track?
I don't know.
I don't have any.
That they saw a little bit of that little screen right there, or your thing down below. I don't know.
I don't have any 8-tracks in here, so I can comfortably and confidently say no, it was not an 8-track, whatever it was. Oh, look, you can see my notes. So here we go. Let's take a look at some of the models. I showed you this already. That's an SD9 from Atlas that I'm going to put DCC in. I showed you the SD35, which I did the product spotlight on this recently. The one that doesn't have the light package in the nose. So I'm going to put those things aside, and I'm going to bring down one of my cases from up here on my desk.
Human City said the 8-track he was referring to was the type of DVD you showed. They're the 8-track of this century.
Oh, yes, that is a DVD. That is an 8-track, yes. Sorry, I didn't quite understand what you meant. I thought you meant a real 8-track, which I'm old enough to, if I hadn't thrown them away, I would have some 8-tracks. I used to have 8-tracks. What a stupid invention that was. Oh, did I say that out loud? I didn't mean to. Okay, so there we go. Oh, boy. I'm going to have to pick this up because this is way too close to look at. So here's a bunch of N-scale stuff. And, you know, it's kind of cool, actually, to be able to show this way. You know, what I should do is I should just make this my next month's video. So without getting into details, I'll just kind of show you guys what's in here. And then next month, I'll show you guys my entire collection. How about that? So that's all N-scale stuff, right? When the SBHRS is open, you might find me running some of this stuff on the N-scale layout, because that's what I take with me. So there's that. That's kind of like, you know, my freight stuff.
You want to know what cases you use?
Oh, I have these car
Very
cases.
expensive cardboard boxes.
Yeah, they're very expensive cardboard boxes. This is made by a company called Axian, Axian. And this stupid little case costs about $30. So they're very expensive. If you can make one yourself, you're probably better off making one yourself. If Axian decides to sponsor my channel, though, I'll tell you how great they are and that you should only buy Axian boxes. They are very good boxes. This is my Amtrak long distance train. So you've seen those running on the layout as well if you've been to the SBHRS.
John Dyson says you're seriously lacking in your N-scale Western Pacific.
I don't have any N-scale Western Pacific.
Yeah.
And then I have some containers here, N-scale containers, which I would need to put my well cars into one of these boxes, but I only have 2 boxes. You know, I think I will next month. I think if we're still sheltering in place, which I fully expect we'll be doing, I may just do another video that's going to be about the models in my boxes.
Show and tell?
Yeah, show and tell. The thing is, though, I don't feel like I have a lot of, anything very impressive to be showing off. But, maybe it doesn't have to be, right? I mean, I know that there are people out there that show people stuff that's really old and they don't even know what it is or what they have, and people still watch it.
Theodore says he goes by Paul.
Paul?
To really confuse you.
Oh, okay.
He goes by Paul.
All right. Well, I'll probably forget that just because it doesn't make sense to me. So my HO scale box is a little bit empty right now just because I haven't loaded it. But we have this little switcher down here. It's an MP15 DC, which I think is really cool. I love that model. And then there's an Alco RS11, and that's a -8. That's the Traper -8 that Rapido came out with a couple years ago. Rapido tried to make sort of a budget line, and it didn't work. Now, what I mean by that is that not that it wasn't good, but what I mean by that is Rapido is too good to make a budget line. Like they can't, it seems like they can't make a model unless it's super detailed and amazing, which is a good thing. That's a nice problem to have. The only problem is that with that is that it ends up being expensive. So, and people like to complain about how expensive models are these days. And I can't say that I blame people for complaining about that. Now, what I don't have anything else in boxes to show in those boxes. Oh, here I am. So I have to stop showing the collection there. But when I do the video about the collection, I have a cabinet over here that has, and a shelf over here that there's probably about another 50 pieces of stuff or more. So, maybe we'll do that next month. So anyway, I think I am going to cut this off because I'm getting tired and I'm getting hoarse. And I think
come on at some other time just to be live and hang out.
Yeah, I think we've gone on long. I think I've gone on long enough.
Human City is asking about if you have a home layout.
I need a drink because I'm getting hoarse. Look, I'm even sweaty. I do not have a home layout. I have a module sitting in a room here at my premises that is a piece of foam enclosed by, the wooden sides. It has legs. It's ready to go, but I just haven't been able to do anything with it yet. Someday I might. But for now, I have the South Bay Historical Railroad Society, which resides at the Santa Clara Depot here in Santa Clara. And there are 2 very nice layouts there One is an N scale layout, which is why I have all this N scale stuff. I kind of started out with N scale. And the other layout is a big HO scale layout. And you can actually see layout tours of both of those layouts here on the channel if you search for them. SBHRS.
Silicon Valley lines too.
Yeah, I sometimes will go operate at Silicon Valley lines with James, the train crew member here, and the people there. Super excellent group of guys there. There's, I think, probably 3 or 4 guys from SVL that are also train crew members. Super excellent, nice guys, very smart guys too. I was going to tell you, I had a thought. I just did an Alvin. I was going to tell you about finding out that I was into trains when I was 2 years old. So I mentioned earlier when I was talking about the top secret video producer doing the video on Amtrak, the slideshow. Thanks, Bill. If you're taking off, we'll see you. David, Z to G, thank you for hanging out. Everybody else who's taken off, thank you. I see, well, we're kind of dwindling. We're down to about 40 or 50 now. What I was going to say is we had all those slides that we scanned for the Amtrak video, that top secret video producer did. And we also did some family slides. See, I know I'm getting tired because I'm having trouble thinking of, staying focused. Some family slides. And in these family slides, there's pictures of me on my 2-year birthday, and my cake was a round cake that had a little train that went around it. So I'm like, oh, I remember that. That's my earliest memory of having any kind of train. So I've been into trains since I was 2 years old. That was 1970.
Maybe we could put that photo up on Facebook.
Yeah, maybe I'll put the photo up, or one of the photos of my train and my cake. And then the other one is a picture of me that same year. For Christmas, I got this little, I don't even know what it was. It was some mechanical steam engine. And I remembered it very vaguely that, it was one of those battery operated things, and you'd put a switch on and it would move around. Do you know what I'm talking about? And I remember being really excited to get that one. Boy, was I happy. So yeah, that's when my interest in trains really started. Up until I remembered that from seeing these ancient slides, I always thought that my first memory of trains that came, top of mind was when I was about 7 or 8 years old, and got HO scale trains from Italy when my parents went on a trip to Italy. And I still have those too. Maybe I'll show that when I show my trains, show all my old crap. I mean, do you guys care about that stuff? I would find that ridiculously boring. Do you want to see that stuff?
Everyone would like to see that. I'd like to see everyone else's stuff.
Yeah. Old boxes of junk.
Yeah.
What I think of now.
An unboxing video with dust.
Anyway, all right. Well, I think we're going to sign off, guys. I'm pretty tired and ready. I'm ready to go. Look, I even look tired. Oh, wait, that's normal. So thanks for hanging out. Thanks for those of you who support the channel in every way that you do, whether it's from signing up on Patreon or Super Chats or just watching. Appreciated more than you know. And thanks again for watching. I'm going to let this run for about 20 seconds or so, and we'll go. So you guys have a chance to say goodnight to everybody.